Hey guys, it's your girl Eda, also known as the CEO Paralegal, author, legal consultant, legal educator, and of course, your host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Join in on the fun by downloading, subscribing, and sharing our content. If you would like to take your support further, we now have Let's Talk Paralegal podcast subscription boxes. So, what are you waiting for? Hit pause, share, and subscribe now. In this episode, I talk about getting started as a freelancer. Whether you're getting started or looking to refine your freelance services, this episode offers actionable advice and it sets you up on a path to freelancing freedom. Listen in for more. Hey guys, it's your girl Eda, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. On this episode, we're going to go over how to start with freelancing, right? We get a lot of questions on that, especially because that's how I started my business, and here we are today, fast forward 7 years later. And so where can we start, where it comes from, all the things about freelancing with your services. It's really important to understand that this is just general information. Obviously, if you want a more one-on-one, we're going to have to analyze everything that's happening, but we're going to go over basically just literally the foundation. So I'm going to walk you through three separate steps, and we're going to go over it, and we're going to try and make this as easy and painless as possible, because I know this topic we get a lot of questions on. We get a lot of inquiries, a lot of email and fan mail, and thank you so much for the fan mail. I literally read them almost every day. I try to communicate with you guys. If you don't know about our fan mail, go ahead and click on the website of this podcast, and there's a little fan mail option that you can go there. On the actual website of the podcast, there's a lot of information, including our main site, all the things. We're also going to add a link to, if you're listening through an app or anything like that, we'll also add a link to our fan mail so we can better communicate with each other. You can send us text messages, emails, however you feel comfortable, so we can continue these conversations from here on out. We're definitely enhancing this podcast because we know that communication, being heard and being seen is really important. So we're making this a priority so that you guys feel at ease and accessible, right? Because I know sometimes, oh my God, she's famous now. I'm not, but whatever. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But I'm always going to be your girl Eda from the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, founder of Eda Rosa LLC. And I always put my followers, listeners, and supporters first. So whatever you guys need, please let us know. Please email me. I have a whole team backing me up. And thank you for your support. I just had to say that before we moved on. But let's move on to the first step. So you have to first decide what services you want to provide, how you are going to provide those services, and how are you getting paid, right? Those are three essential elements that sometimes we lose track of. And so let's start with the first one. How do you decide what services you want to provide? So I get this answer a lot when I'm coaching my paralegals or when I'm just having conversations in general, and they say, well, I'm just going to do everything. Okay, so what's everything? You're going to handle the clients, you're going to answer the calls, you're going to do the intake, you're going to do the litigation, you're going to do the discovery, you're going to go to trial with them, you're going to pick the jurors. Like, what does that mean exactly? You have to be very, very specific. And so if you're going to do that, how are you going to handle more than one client? How are you going to provide those services efficiently and effectively? And how are you going to continue that relationship from there on out? So one of the mistakes most commonly made when we're transitioning from full-time to freelancer is, oh, we're just going to do the same thing that I do now, but I'm just going to do it on my own. And I did that. I made that mistake. And so this is why I'm doing this podcast episode. And that's not necessarily translates the same, right? Because what happens is we tend to think that we need to get paid the same and that we can handle more than one client in doing that. And that's just physically impossible for one person to handle multiple clients when handling the entire caseload. So focus on your niche, I would suggest. If you really like intake and really like communicating with the clients and converting clients, focus on intake specialists. Brand yourself as an intake specialist. If you really like litigation and discovery, like I do, I love the research. I love doing the nitty gritty. I love rolling up my sleeves and, doing briefs and all the things that a lot of people don't. So I niche down to discovery responses. Still get to speak with the client, still have those conversations, but I get to discover facts and help the client and the attorney really fast forward to the ultimate goal, which is either settling or going for trial. So I love discovering new facts, new case law, all the things. That's literally my jam. Or do you just want to do litigation support in general, right? Handling all the responses and doing all the things and doing litigation support. Do you want to do pre-lit just before it goes into litigation? Everything that entails, records requests, depositions, mediations, whatever your niche is, whatever you love to do, you got to be realistic about it and start brainstorming what services you're going to do. Now, once you've narrowed down what type of services you want, then you got to work on, well, how am I going to provide this? You're going to need a laptop, obviously. Are you going to need a camera, a mic? What are you going to need, right? So how are you going to provide this? Are you going to be hybrid? Are you going to go half in, half out, into the law firms and then, be home most of the time or whatever it is? How are you providing this? Are you going to rent space so you can have quiet space because your home is not, set up to have that private space and deal with all the things that you need to deal with when you're on your own. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like. So how are you going to provide this? Are you going to package your services? Are you going to say, okay, well, if you just want intake, this is how much it's going to be? Are you going to do it hourly? Are you going to have a billing module? All these things that you need to think about. I know it's a lot and I'm throwing stuff at you, but you really have to do your research and see what kind of fits you. Now, another question that I'm going to add into the providing portion of this is, some people ask me, should I do it on my own as a solo person, or should I actually create a company? And I'm going to answer that question right here because I know I'm going to get it. And that's a typical legal answer I'm going to give you is, it depends. So talk to a CPA specialist, see what your circumstances are, whether or not you have a spouse, whether or not you are divorced, have child support. All these things are taken into consideration when you're analyzing whether or not you should be solo, like doing it on your own under just your name, or doing it under either an LLC or some corporation or S Corp or whatever it is that your state provides or country, because I know a lot of people are listening. Shout out to Canada and London and Germany. Thank you so much for listening. Other countries are also listening. So you really have to look at your local laws and see which one will benefit the most. Because at the end of the day, you're doing this for money, you're doing this to pay bills, and you're doing this to make a change. So you don't want to hinder yourself over legalities. So figure all that stuff out now. So that kind of ties into how you're going to provide these services. And then the other one is, how are you getting paid? So a lot of us miss the mark on this. Start investing in credit card processing. Everybody pays with a credit card now. Just deal with it, get it, figure it out. There's a lot of companies out there that I'm not going to promote on the podcast because they're not paying me to do so, but there's plenty of credit card processing services. Even your own banks, if you create a business account, will have one they have options. You can also do cash apps, make it electronic. Do not accept checks. It's just, at this point, it's unnecessary. It takes way too long, and sometimes they bounce or they get canceled or whatever it is. So just making it more effective and easy with your invoicing and your billing and keeping track of everything that comes around getting paid, making it easier for the client to pay you is really going to help you get paid. So think of everything that kind of, surrounds that and do some brainstorming on that end. Okay, so that was my first tip. I know it's a lot. My second tip is decide who your ideal client is. Not every attorney is going to be your client. So another mistake I made was, I'll just take all the attorneys that come my way. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Not every personal injury attorney is going to be your ideal client. Not every family law or whatever you're niching down to. If you're niching, not every general lawyer is going to be your client. So understanding how you provide your services and all the things that we just went over in the first tip is going to really help you figure out who your ideal client is. And now I'm going to give you a little 360. Sometimes we get it wrong. So I definitely got it wrong. I could have sworn I knew who my ideal client was. I even created this whole persona or avatar, whatever it's business talk for creating your ideal client. And I totally got it wrong. I thought I needed a certain type of attorney, and it turns out that it doesn't have to be a certain type of attorney. It doesn't have to be a certain age range. It's more of the dynamics of the law firm. So for me, it was more about they need to have X amount of employees or more. They need to provide these certain services. If they, all these little intricacies that go along with you figuring out who your ideal client is. So sometimes you'll get it wrong, sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you'll hit it right on the nail. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's all about figuring it out, but at least get a general idea of, kind of who you want to serve, what type of attorneys you want to serve, and then go from there and see who bites the apple, right? So that's my second tip. My last tip for this episode is automate and replicate. Oh my goodness, I can't even stress this enough. You have to be able to automate almost everything. If somebody wants a consult with you, do not be going back and forth with calendaring. Invest in a free calendar link for the beginning of your freelance. You can automate all of that, and it's free. That's at no extra cost. Just have it on your undersign of your professional email. Do all the things. Look professional. Look serious. You're providing a legal service. There's still some professionalism involved, especially as a business owner. We get a little elevated when it comes to that. So understanding those dynamics, just automate it. There's no need for you to be going back and forth trying to set up a consult. And you know what? Frankly, that deters some of your clients because they feel like they don't have access to you. So if they have like a little click where they can click and get on your calendar like immediately, give them different options, whether you want Zoom, a phone call, whatever it is, give them that flexibility. You're giving them power back, but you're also giving them the time that they need when they need it. And that's exactly what automation's all about. Send them an automatic email. Thank you so much. We received your appointment, blah, 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 blah. And just, automate it. Automate. The most important thing that you should automate are your invoices. So as soon as you put in all your billable hours and you do all the things, you make sure that immediately goes to the client so that you can immediately get paid. So again, automate. And what I mean by replicate is whenever something actually works, when you see that a positive is happening and it's consistently working, replicate that method. Don't replicate the actual task, but replicate the method. So if you implemented automation in calendar, well, then that's great. Replicate that and know that people like the accessibility. So find other ways, other tools to help you replicate that consistency. So they want consistency, they want accessibility. That's really what that means. So if you continue to streamline that through the rest of your business, then you don't look like a one-stop shop. You don't look like a one-person shop. You look more like a bigger company, which sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but you just want to make sure that you're not missing any emails, that you're not missing any opportunities. So make sure that whatever is working, you replicate. So if a lot of people, another question that I'm probably going to get, and it ties into the whole automate and replicate method, and I'll just use it as an example. A lot of people want to get on all the social media apps, and that doesn't necessarily work. So we mainly focus on 2 social media apps because we realize that our clients live in those 2 apps. I think, who was it? I'm not sure if it was Porsche or Ferrari. One of the luxury cars actually had, Lamborghini. That's who it was. Lamborghini threw out a quote that will stay with me forever. They say, "We don't do commercials because our clients are not sitting around watching TV." So know your audience, understand them, understand that they may not live on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, right? So know your audience, see where they're living, see where you're getting the good, strong leads, and focus on those. I would say focus on one at a time. The first one you should try is the one that you're most comfortable utilizing. So the one that you're very comfortable and very familiar with, start with that social media outlet first. See if it works, see if you get clients, see if you get conversion. And then if it does work, again, replicate, automate and replicate. So if somebody messages you through that actual social media, make sure you have an automated text message that responds to them back. Thank you so much. We received your message. We'll get back to you within, I don't know, 24 to 48 hours or business hours, whatever it is. But again, you want to automate and replicate so that you're not missing an opportunity and the people still feel like they're being heard and seen. I was recently at ClioCon as a speaker, and one of the things that Jack Newton, which is the CEO of Clio, said that really stayed with me out of his amazing keynote, by the way, but out of all that speech, one thing really, really resonated with me. They sent out, and I will put the link onto this description, they sent out their legal trends survey, and they said 80% of law firms do not answer their calls. So that's a lot of missed opportunities right there. I mean, 80%, that is huge from a comparison of 60%. So it's only going up. The more technology we have, the less we're actually answering the call and, relieving the gap and access to justice. So really understand the importance of automation and replication. Really make sure that you are figuring all this out and that everything is happening in a coherent, effective, and productive way, because at the end of the day, that's what they're hiring you for. They're hiring you because they want to elevate their law firm, they want to grow their business, and they're trying to utilize you because you are a one, like, all-in-one, right? All-in-one option. So you're providing the services that they need at a lower overall cost, not billable cost. So you might charge more for the hour, but they're not paying you, the benefits, right? So like health insurance or retirement, 401k, IRAs, all the things, right? So really remember that, right? That they are probably paying you more by the hour, but in the end, it's costing them less because they're not paying for a full-time employee. So you remember that, you remind them that, and everything will hopefully turn out great. But until justice is served, that's all I have for you for today. Again, just hit us up on the fan mail, email us, message us if you follow us on LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. Until justice is served, I'll be here. Bye, guys.